Okay, I got it unboxed. There are a lot more pieces than I expected, and I'm definitely going to need to go through the manual and figure out what this thing is capable of. I know less than zero about laser cutters. I have a 3D printer. That's about it. So this is going to be all brand new to me, and hopefully it's not too frustrating of an experience. It does come with a great video that kind of walks you through each piece. Okay, inside there are transport guide screws, 3 of them on, or well, 2 on this side, 3 on this side. They all need to come out. And here's the other 2 on this side. Those also come out. Next up, we're going to take these nuts off of the exhaust port, and then we'll put this on for the hose. This will be where all the smoke and everything will be kind of blown out. I believe this is the one. There you go. You just need to get it started, and then you can do the rest by hand. Alright, this just slides on there. Pretty good, and then we'll put these on to tighten it back up. Alright, next we're going to take this. This is the exhaust hose. It is got these very long twisty ties, so you just got to untwist them so that it unfurls enough that you can utilize it, right? And then you can gonna connect one end. Let's see if we can pull this out a little bit here. Something like that. And we're gonna take the hose clamp here. We're gonna open this up so that we have maximum ability to fit over. Oops, maybe not quite that much, but we'll say something like that. See if we can get this. There we go. I'm going to try to just make this fit. There we go. You want to just, it's fairly snug as is, but we're just going to try to slide it on there so that it fits all the way to the edge without. Driving hose. Clamps it into space so that it doesn't, at least that's the idea. There we go. That feels pretty solid. Next up, this little fella is the Wi-Fi antenna, and it just screws into the Wi-Fi antenna. It's got like an old coaxial cable. You just screw it in there until it's fairly tight, and then you can kind of adjust your angle depending on what you need. On the other side of the exhaust, you've got the USB port, which I believe you're going to have to connect via USB the very first time. Get it all connected to the Wi-Fi, and then after that you can do some remote printing. But we'll go ahead and plug in this USB cord, and then ultimately we're going to have the DC input, the air assist, so some cool stuff. We got to connect the air assist, and there's really, with this cable, here it is. This is where we're going to connect it. You're going to want to connect this thick end with the quick release compression fitting. And this is just going to slide on there. fit in there really nice and snug. There we go. And then the other end is going to go, I don't know if you can see it, here into the air assist. So again, these are similar to your PFTE tubes on a 3D printer, where they just have a compression fitting that you can press in on, and then they will, you know, kind of clamp in. So I'm just going to set this up here for a second and undo this. This is just going to slide in there like that, and then pull on it gently, and it's snug. The last piece will be plugging in the power of the air assist into the main unit. This just screws right on. And then when we got power to the unit, it should power the air assist. Should be good. I just opened the software. It says, do you want to go to the beginner's guide? Yeah, probably, because I know nothing, right? Okay, I got to log in first. So that probably means I've got to create an account of some sort. Let's see if we can do that. Create new account. All right. Verification code from their software, so let's enter that in. Man, they really want you to check those terms and conditions a lot, even on login. Okay, cool. I need to install the USB driver first. This is the part I'm really curious how complicated it is. Now, what I really want to do though is try to figure out how to connect it to the Wi-Fi so that I don't always have to do USB. Okay, it looks like in the settings there's an option to do Wi-Fi, so let's see if we can get that connected. Awesome. Okay, it sees my I don't love that it sees several different versions of mine here, 2G. That's a little weird. But we will try that because that's very odd. Okay, cool. Yep, I see that works. I see over here, looks like it's Wi-Fi connected, so I'm not using the USB anymore. All right, that's cool. So it came with some sample pieces of wood that we can use for calibration. These are, what, 3mm, something like that, very thin, but we will use it to try to calibrate and make sure that everything is working as it should. So to do that, I'm just going to open up the lid. I'm going to put it right in the middle, close it, and then we'll see what happens. Obviously, I should probably be screen sharing this, but I'm just trying to figure this out. But I added some text to it. Over here, I've got the line engrave and power set to default. And then what we're going to do is hit autofocus. It should try to focus to establish the right distance. And then I think from there, I can click start. Looks like maybe it's focused, I don't know. And I guess we hit start. See what happens. Wow, that is actually really, really fast. Like, really fast. Now that was a really quick project, so there's not a lot of smoke involved, but I can definitely feel it moving a lot of air out of here. So I'm definitely going to want to vent this if I'm going to do something like significant. But that's really good. Unfortunately, my window is the wrong type for me to vent out of it right now. So what I'm going to try instead is a little jury rig of using my shop vac to suck most of the smoke out on this small project. So we're going to see how well that works. It's creating the smoke inside. See if any smoke escapes. Probably could tape it a little better, but honestly, it doesn't seem too bad. I'm impressed by how fast this is. So I've been doing a few tests with the Vision, and it's gone all right. First, I just used the base wood that came with it. Now I tried supplying my own wood, and that's been a learning lesson. So I'll try to walk you through what's going on here. Here I have a piece of, I would say, I'm almost certain it's 1/4 inch thick. So not like crazy thick, but 1/4 inch thick sanded ply. And I wanted to do a cutout for like a box. Ran into a lot of problems because this is a lot thicker than the the base wood, and getting the settings right is where I had to really start to play with. So first I did a test. Well, first I did this, right? Like, and I saw that at 100% power, certainly at 10 millimeters, it looked like it could burn all the way through, and so on and so on. But it got dirtier and dirtier. So I did try 10 millimeters at 100, or sorry, yeah, 10 at 100% power, 10 millimeters. It did not cut all the way through. So instead I did this one here at 1 millimeter a second, and it cut all the way through, but man, it was flaring. Look at the smoke, the black everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I was watching it the whole time, so it wasn't dangerous, but like definitely the quality not great, right? Like it just not good. Then next I did, let's see, 10 millimeters a second. Sorry. So a much faster speed at 100%, but I did 2 passes, and this looks obviously a lot better than, sorry, this one here. So this is the one that was at 1 millimeter. This was at 10 millimeter with 2 passes, and it looks a lot better, but not great. Then I did 20 millimeters on this one, and I did 3 passes, but you can see it didn't actually cut all the way through. So I'm like, okay, that's not good. Lastly, I did 20 millimeters, 4 passes, and that's this one. And this one looks the best. Yeah, just black on the, the mid levels, but honestly, it looks really clean on the front side, and it looks really clean on the back side. So I'm led to conclude that if I want to cut thicker materials, I'm going to need to do multiple passes, and there is no way, no world where this cuts an inch thick material in one pass. That's just not happening. Okay, I think this is going to wrap up my initial review of the Wecreat Vision. There's a lot of things to like about it, and there are some negatives as well, which I've gone over. But the key thing is, it is, I think, user-friendly, considering I have never used a laser cutter before. Had no experience with it, and I was able to get up and running pretty quickly without, throwing my hands in frustration. So I'd say in some ways it's easier to approach than 3D printing, and in some ways it's a little more frustrating. So I just finished cutting. I made these cards out of cardstock and cut them out, and honestly they turned out looking great. Like, they look very uniform. It's fantastic. One thing nobody ever talks about, though, is you're going to get soot marks on your fingers no matter what you're cutting. This is so thin, just cardstock paper, but it still is going to leave burn marks, which creates soot, which is going to be on your fingers. So that's one thing that you don't hear about too much with laser cutters. Okay, in terms of cutting power, this claims to be a 60-watt laser cutter, and to be honest, I'm not an authority on this, so I can't confirm or deny, but here's my suspicion, is that it is not the same as a 60-watt laser cutter in the traditional sense. They've stacked lasers, smaller lasers, in series to kind of like generate the power of a 60-watt laser, but I feel like there's probably differences that you notice when you compare it to a true 60-watt laser cutter. That said, it does cut really well, but I do want to call out some things. The whole like cutting through 1-inch materials that it claims on the site, no way, that's not happening. You would have to go so slow that you would set whatever you're trying to cut on fire. I think I showed some of that. Like, there's burn marks even when I wasn't going that slow It did cut through like a 1/4 inch of birch plywood, but the scorch marks were just terrible. Much better to set it on multiple passes, and it will cut through it with a lot less burning and risk of fire. So it can cut a 1-inch material. It's just you're going to have to do several passes, and I think that's kind of a marketing misdirection and probably misrepresentation by Wecreat. That said, I'm still very pleased with it. I'm just pointing out that that's not, you know, if you're new to laser cutting and you think, oh, I'm going to get this laser cutter and it's just going to cut through 1-inch plywood, you know, or whatever, like that's not happening. Not in one pass. That's not happening. But it's simple to use. The software is pretty simple. Some people will be upset that it's maybe too simplified, but honestly, as someone who's new to laser cutting, I appreciate that. It means it's a lot harder to screw things up. What I don't like is you actually have to do a lot of trial and error yourself to understand what cuts and work engraves and whatever best on the material you're using. I understand that if you've been in the laser cutting world for a while, you probably are used to that, and that's fine. But I honestly feel like at this point, particularly if you got a large ecosystem like supposedly Wecreat does, that you could have a database of material profiles that people have validated, that have proven, and would just make setting your materials that much easier. There's only like a small selection of pre-defined materials that comes with the software, and even those sometimes are wildly off from what I needed when I was using the material. So I think there's something that could be improved. I think the software could be improved. I think it would be really helpful if it had a 3D image of particularly the engraving so that you understand how deep your engraving will be on your material. Obviously you can print, you can, you know, create a sample sheet, but I think it'd be helpful to have that in software, particularly on a known material. Beyond that, I think there's not a lot of negatives. Okay, so would I recommend this for someone who hasn't had experience with laser cutters? Well, I was able to get it and use it and get things figured out pretty well. So I think, yeah, I would. I think it's obviously expensive. It's you know, not a toy. 3D printers are much more affordable than laser cutters, but there's a lot of really interesting things that you can do with a laser cutter that you cannot do with a 3D printer. So if that appeals to you, if you're in the maker and you've got creative you know, leanings, and you want to just see what you can build out, something like this is going to be awesome. You're going to have a wonderful time with it. I think you're only limited by your imagination, and I know my own imagination is not as vivid and creative as I'd like it to be, but I can think of all kinds of things that I could use this for, and I'm looking forward to using it more. That's it for this video. I hope you watched it. I know you watched it. Hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.